Good day, everybody. Today is a Monday, March 3rd. I'm going to do a little series, a video series. Maybe it's going to take 4 or 5 videos to complete the series, but it's basically about creating or building, manufacturing, fabricating your own BUK OEM style steering arm. There's a lot of clubs out there. They break their steering arm. Oh my God, it's a big panic. I gotta ship it FedEx Express to them, and it's very costly. But if you have a spare steering arm in your club, if somebody can make one for you, always a good thing to have. In fact, I would say it's crucial to have it. So I'm going to start just by talking about the type of material we use. I'm going to go through the gluing process to get the material glued together to create the laminate for the steering arm, and then I'm going to clamp the entire assembly together, and that's all we'll do for today. The following video will be about the shaping and cutting the block of wood into the steering arms themselves, and then some drilling, countersinking, and routering and other finishing mill work to get the steering arm into the final shape of what we want, and then the finishing touches, which is staining and varnishing and things like that. So that's going to take 3 or 4 videos. Anyway, I want to talk first about the material. So we use a wood called Cumaru. This is a deck board. So this is a Brazilian teak, they call it. It's just a tropical hardwood called Cumaru. You can get it at various outlets. But the important thing is that this is the thickness of this wood. It's called a 6+ thickness. And what that means, it's not a 3/4 inch board. It's not a 5/4 inch board or 1 inch board. It's actually a nominal 7/8 inch finished board by 5.5 inches wide. So it's a 1x6, but it's a 1x6 plus. So that's how you identify. And the reason we use a 7/8 board is because when you laminate 7/8 plus 7/8 plus 7/8 together, which I'll show you, you get the right proper thickness, about 2.5 inches thick, which is the OEM size for the steering arm. If you use 3/4, you'd be under, too thin. If you use the 5/4 boards, you'd be too thick. But this gives you the perfect end result as far as thickness. The other thing that's great about this deck board, it's a typical 8-foot deck board, 96 inches, meaning if you cut it into 3 sections, you're going to get 3 pieces at about 32 inches. And again, it just so happens that 3 pieces of this laminate together equals 2.5 inches, which is the thickness, the height you want of an OEM steering arm. So that's why we use this. The other great thing about this is that the 5.5 inch width means that when you finally laminated these boards, these 3 boards together, you cut it right in half, and that gives you actually 2 blanks to finally finish your steering arm. So that'll give you this board, this 1x6 by 8-foot board, will allow you to fabricate 2 OEM BUK steering arms. So I'm not going to cut this board because it's loud and dusty, but I actually have a board cut into 3 sections. So here we go, 1, 2, 3. And you'll see I've kind of numbered them. When I cut them, I make sure they're in the same orientation, A, B, C. On the other side, I've got 1, 2, 3. The reason for that is if there's a slight bow in the wood, you don't want them doing this and then there's a little gap. So you want them oriented, one on top of the other, in the same way as the board was laid out when it was all one piece. Okay, so get some of this out of the way. Now, we use epoxy, and I love epoxy because we use it for paddles as well. Maybe you saw my previous video about sizing a paddle. But epoxy is gap filling, meaning if there's some gaps in the wood, they're not quite perfectly flat or straight, or a little bit twisted. This lumber's pretty good, but there's a little bit of twist in it. The epoxy will actually fill those gaps. So again, we're going to be careful. We're going to flip this over because that's the top of the steering arm. We're going to flip it over. That's a glue surface. That's the next glue surface. We use a little chip brush. And yeah, I know. You guys out there who use these chip brushes, you hate them like I do because the damn strands of the brush keep coming off. And that absolutely is going to happen here. But we don't worry about it because, again, the epoxy is going to fill any gaps if little piece of this damn little piece here, right? I don't know if you can see that. So these chip brushes are just cheap, but that's okay if some of these strands come out. And we put a nice thick coating of epoxy. Keep going. And it looks like, I'm gonna say you need about, there's probably about 4 ounces of epoxy mixed. So, you know, you've got your ratios of resin to hardener with epoxy, but you want to end up with a total of about 4 ounces in a cup. That's an 8-ounce cup, so it's just about half that cup. And we thicken it a little bit with Cabasol. Cabasol is just a very common thickening agent used in boat building and other types of epoxy work. And it just makes it a little thicker so it runs not like water but like syrup. And that way we don't get all these drips everywhere. And we'll show you a little bit of that later. So there's 4 glue surfaces, these 2. And then the back side of this board is a glue surface. And the front side of the board, the final board that's underneath it. So again, don't be shy. Some of this epoxy is going to drip out. Just got some on my shirt. Damn it. Okay, so that's the first glue surface. Then we have these 2 glue surfaces. Just bear with me. I know I should be editing this video so it's not so long, but hey, almost done here. So since I'm slopping this stuff on quickly, I'm running out quicker than I thought, but that's okay. We got enough to finish. Is that my damn dog outside? Alright, I'm empty, so I'm going to steal some epoxy from here just to wet this surface. Just need a little bit more. There we go. All right, so okay. So there we go. We're just gonna go out and let my dog in. Here we go. Yeah, this is Lucy. Okay. Okay, so now we've got our boards and we're just gonna put a little pressure on them. Sit them on their edges. Now I've got these 2 little pieces so I can keep the glue from the table here. There we go. So we're going to line these up. All right, so the clamps, these are just cheap Harbor Freight clamps. This is a typical screw type C-clamp. I like these because you can get a much tighter squeeze than these these other clamps, but these are cheaper. Harbor Freight, $2.99. These are usually $4. But you're going to start clamping in the center and work your way out. So the first clamp, make sure everything is lined up. Doesn't have to be exact because we're going to cut that end off anyway. And we're just going to start here. There we go. And you can see the glue already coming out in the seams there. I'll flip it over. And we're going to put a clamp here as well. There we go. Oh. All right. And once you've done it in the middle, then we want to make sure you get these even again. We're going to put one on the end here. Okay, one over on the other one. Okay, so if you got a situation where you know the glue isn't, I can see it down in the gap there, but it's just not squeezing out. You can just take a little bit, make sure you've got some glue down in there. There we go. So you know that you're not gonna, when you saw this, you know, when you run this through the table saw, you're not gonna have any voids. It's all, the entire glue line is going to be completely full of epoxy. Same thing here. Okay, we'll flip it over. And here we go. We'll make sure we got glue down in here. We're going to put some more clamps on here. Try and get the glue to squeeze out these areas, but I can see it. Okay, a little rag. So just really need 4 more clamps on these edges. And you can see as I put the clamps on, that glue is still being squeezed out. So I know for sure the entire glue line, side to side and end to end, is going to be full of epoxy. We're not going to have any issues of any voids when I cut this. Again, run this thing through the table saw. This side looks great. I'll put a proper clamp on there. Boom. Fabulous. All right, so that's it. That's essentially the cutting and the gluing stage, and I'm going to clean this up a little bit so we end up. And this is the one I did yesterday. So you can see the height 2.5 inches. The length 32 inches. Kumaru is the lumber you want, and it's the 7/8 nominal thickness, which is called 6. I believe it's called 6+. And again, we're going to slice this thing. One of the first things we're going to do is just trim up one edge, and we are going to slice this thing right in half, and that's going to give us 2 blanks, which are going to allow us to fabricate what will eventually look something like this. We'll go through the steps to get to this stage in the next 2, 3, or 4 videos. All right, everybody, that's it for today. Have a good one.